Lily Benson wasn't the kind of girl to wander off. She knew the path home from school like the back of her hand, past the old bakery, over the little wooden bridge, and then the dusty trail through the trees that led to her family's cabin on the hill. But that Thursday, she never made it. Her backpack was found by the bridge, zipped up, neat, too neat. The entire town of Ashridge shifted that day. Doors that hadn't been locked in years were bolted shut. Kids weren't allowed. Outside, fear crawled into every home like a cold wind that wouldn't leave. Within hours, the search teams were out. Volunteers, police, even hikers from the next town over. But they had one last hope. A retired K9 named Blitz. He wasn't just any dog. Blitz had seen war. He had a deep scar down his left shoulder and eyes that looked like they'd seen too much. People said he could sniff out a lie better than most humans. His handler, Officer Marla Reyes, didn't usually bring him on civilian searches anymore. But when the call came in, she didn't hesitate. "She's 8 years old, Marla," the chief had said. "If anyone can find her, it's Blitz." Marla clipped the leash onto Blitz's harness. "You ready, old boy?" she asked, and Blitz gave a short grunt, half growl, half sigh, like he already knew it wasn't going to be simple. They started at the bridge. Blitz lowered his nose, sniffed the backpack, and moved with purpose. His body tensed, tail stiff, ears alert. He was locked in. He led them through the woods, past the bend in the creek, up toward the higher trails that few people walked anymore. The team struggled to keep up, but Marla stayed close. She could feel it too. Something was off. The forest felt too still. Then Blitz stopped. It wasn't like before. He didn't sit or bark. He just froze, his paws planted at the very edge of a steep cliff, wind whipping through his fur, staring down into the thick fog below. Marla stepped beside him slowly. "What is it, Blitz?" He didn't move, not even a twitch. His nose lifted into the air, sniffed once, then again, and then he shivered. Not from cold, from something deeper. Fear. "I've never seen him like this," Marla whispered. Another officer approached. "Anything down there?" Blitz growled, low, guttural, protective. He didn't want anyone close. "Back up," Marla said. "He's telling us something." But what? There were no footprints leading off the cliff, no signs of a struggle, just Blitz, staring down like he saw something none of them could. Then he whined, a long, heartbreaking sound that Marla had only heard once, when they lost a child in Afghanistan. She knelt beside him and looked into his eyes. "Did she fall?" she asked gently. Blitz didn't blink. He kept staring. Someone from the search team shouted from a distance, "No sign of her this way." Blitz suddenly pulled toward the edge, not to jump, but to dig, just a little. His paw scratched at the dry soil, revealing a small torn piece of pink cloth. Marla picked it up. This is from her jacket." The wind picked up, carrying the faint scent of something strange, metallic, old. Blitz sniffed again, then whimpered. "Why aren't you barking?" Marla whispered. "What did you find, Blitz?" He looked at her, really looked, and then turned back to the cliff, sitting down like a statue guarding a grave. "We need drones," Marla called out. "Search the gorge. I think she was here." As night fell, Blitz wouldn't budge. He refused food, refused rest. He just kept watch, his body trembling, his eyes never leaving the darkness below. And for the first time in her career, Marla felt something deep in her chest, not fear, dread. Because if Blitz wasn't barking, it meant this wasn't over. It meant something was still watching them, and Blitz knew it. Blitz didn't move all night. He sat like a statue at the edge of the cliff, eyes locked on the shadows below. Every time someone got close, he growled, low, steady, like a warning. One officer tried to tug at his leash. Blitz snapped, not to bite, just to say, "Don't." Marla stepped in. "Leave him," she said quietly. "He knows something we don't." People argued, said he was tired, that he needed food. But Marla knew Blitz better than anyone. This wasn't just exhaustion. This was fear, a kind she'd never seen in him, not even in war zones. Later, she knelt beside him. "Talk to me, buddy," she whispered. "What scared you out here?" Blitz didn't look at her. He just kept watching the drop as if something down there was watching back. When they finally got him back to the station, he walked slow. Not from age. He was holding something back, like his mind was still out there on that cliff. Marla led him into his kennel, gave him fresh water, rubbed his head. "You did good," she told him. Blitz didn't even lay down. He stood in the corner, facing the door, waiting. Hours passed. The search teams returned with nothing, not a sign of Lily. The sun went down, the air got cold, and inside the station, it was quiet. Too quiet. Around midnight, Marla heard a clang, metal hitting concrete. She rushed to the kennels. Blitz was gone. The gate was open. He had unlatched it himself. "Blitz!" she shouted, already knowing where he was going. Marla grabbed her flashlight, keys, and ran for her truck. The road twisted up through the woods, and by the time she got near the cliff, she spotted movement. A flash of fur. Blitz. He was back. Same spot. But this time, he wasn't sitting. He was digging. She parked fast and ran toward him. "Blitz! What are you doing?" He growled, not at her, at the ground. His paws moved fast, scraping through dirt and dry leaves like his life depended on it. Marla got closer and saw what he'd found. The corner of something pink. Her heart dropped. She knelt beside him and pulled gently. Out came a small, muddy sneaker. A child's. "God," she breathed. "It's hers. It's Lily's." Blitz stepped back, breathing heavy. His ears were down, tail low, but his eyes, they were focused, sharp. He was trying to show her something. Marla looked around and spotted an old rusted pipe nearby, barely visible through the weeds. "What's this doing here?" she muttered. She ran her fingers along it. It went underground. Blitz sniffed around it, then started pouring again, this time near the pipe's edge. Another small object came loose. A faded ribbon, tangled in a clump of roots. "Why would these be buried?" she said. "Unless someone didn't want them found." Blitz whined and nudged the ribbon toward her. Marla stared at the items in her hands. Someone brought her here, but they didn't take her down the cliff. They hid these. She pulled out her radio. "This is Officer Reyes. I need a forensics team up at Ridge Cliff. We've found evidence, and I think this goes deeper than anyone thought." Blitz lay down beside the pipe, ears still twitching. He didn't look tired. He looked like he was waiting for something. Marla sat beside him and whispered, "You never stopped working, did you?" Blitz blinked slow, then laid his head gently on her boot. And in that quiet moment she knew this wasn't just a search anymore. It was a warning. Something terrible had happened here before. And Blitz remembered. Marla stood near the rusted pipe, still, holding Lily's sneaker, her mind racing. Blitz sat close, eyes darting between the pipe and the woods beyond. Something was pulling him deeper, and she could feel it too. This wasn't just about Lily anymore. The forensic team marked off the site, started digging carefully. Blitz paced nearby, ears up, nose twitching. Every few minutes, he circled back to the same patch of dirt just past the pipe, then looked toward the forest like something was calling him there. "Marla," one of the techs called, "we found something else." She hurried over. A torn piece of blue cloth lay in the soil. It was older, frayed at the edges, faded by time. Blitz growled softly, not out of anger, more like he was warning them. "Look closer." A few feet away, he started digging again, paws, kicking up dust and roots. Marla moved to stop him, but paused. Blitz wasn't just digging, he was guiding. "Let him work," she told the team. Minutes later, Blitz backed away and sat. At his paws was another shoe, smaller, older, covered in rust-colored stains. Marla bent down and picked it up. "This doesn't belong to Lily," she whispered. "It's been here too long." Suddenly a sharp voice cut through the air. "That's enough." The mayor, Gregory Huxley, arrived in a suit too clean for the woods, followed by 2 aides. His face was tight with frustration. "This area is unstable," he said. "I'm shutting this down. You're putting people at risk." Marla frowned. "We've found 2 different items of clothing. One confirmed from the missing girl. Now this second—" "I said it's over," Huxley barked. "You're not authorized to dig this far." Blitz stepped in front of Marla and growled low, his body tense. He didn't like the mayor. Neither did Marla. Huxley's eyes twitched. "Control your animal, officer." She didn't flinch. "He's reacting to something. Maybe you should ask yourself why." One of the townspeople watching from the yellow tape line gasped. "Wait," the woman said, stepping forward. "That shoe. I recognize it." Marla looked up. "Ma'am?" The woman's voice shook. "My niece, Emma. She vanished 12 years ago. That's her bracelet." She pointed to the item just uncovered from a nearby root. "It was hers. I gave it to her for her 10th birthday." The crowd fell silent. Marla picked it up slowly. It was rusted, the tiny heart charm barely visible under the dirt. She turned to the mayor. "Still want to shut us down?" Huxley didn't answer. His jaw was locked tight. Blitz walked back to the cliff's edge and sat. Same spot, same stare. "He knew," Marla whispered. "He's known. This whole time there's more buried here." The woman stepped closer, tears running down her face. Emma wasn't the only one. A few girls went missing back then. They called them runaways. But my sister always said something was wrong. The wind picked up. Blitz stood and barked once, sharp and clear. His nose pointed toward the forest below. Marla's chest tightened. "He wants us to follow." A deputy leaned in. "Why would the mayor want to stop this? If kids really went missing," Marla's voice was low, "maybe someone in this town knows the truth. And maybe Blitz is the only one who's been trying to tell us." Huxley turned and walked away, ignoring everyone. Marla looked at Blitz. "You've been holding this in for years, haven't you?" He didn't bark, just stared into the trees, his tail still, his breath steady. And in that moment, everyone standing there realized this wasn't just a rescue. It was a graveyard. And Blitz had remembered every single scent. The items Blitz uncovered couldn't be ignored. The story spread like wildfire. Within hours, more people showed up at the station. Not for answers, but with questions of their own. Questions they'd been holding in for years. An older woman stepped forward, holding a photo. "My son Caleb disappeared in '98. Everyone said he ran away, but I never believed it." Another voice. "My cousin vanished from summer camp. We never even got his shoes back." Marla wrote down every name, every detail. Blitz sat by the door, calm but alert, like he was waiting for his moment again. They followed him the next morning. Into the woods, down past the cliff, through trails so narrow they had to walk single file. Blitz didn't hesitate once. Nose to the ground, body tense. He was chasing something no one else could see. "Where is he taking us?" one deputy asked. Marla replied, "Where no one wanted to go." The path opened into a clearing, quiet and still. Blitz stopped, looked around, then veered off toward a cluster of trees. He began to dig. Fast. Focused. Marla dropped to her knees. "What is it, boy?" Within seconds, his paws uncovered something soft. She reached in carefully, pulling out a rotted, moss-covered backpack. She turned it over. On the front was a faded patch, a summer camp badge. The year stitched below, 1994. Someone behind her gasped. "That was Camp Woodpine. They shut it down after that summer." A deep voice cut in. "Stop digging." Everyone turned. Sheriff Darren stood there, face like stone. Marla held up the backpack. "Do you know what this is?" The sheriff didn't move. She stepped closer. "Why are you here, Sheriff? Why now?" Darren's jaw twitched. "Some things are better left buried." Blitz stood between him and Marla, growling low. Not out of anger. It was something else. Something protective. Marla said, "You were a deputy back then, weren't you?" He didn't answer. "You knew about the disappearances. Camp kids." Nobody followed up. His voice was low. "It was a different time. We were told to close it. Said the kids just wandered off. No bodies, no proof." Blitz barked once, sharp and angry. He pawed at the bag again. Marla crouched beside him, unzipping the top. Inside were scraps of paper, old candy wrappers, and a photograph. 4 kids, arms around each other, wearing the same camp badge. The sheriff stared. That's Danny," he whispered. "He was just 9. A woman stepped forward. My daughter was there that year. She always said something bad happened. I didn't believe her." Marla looked around. "This isn't about Lily anymore. This is bigger. This town's been holding its breath for decades." A few people nodded. Others turned away. The sheriff spoke again. "We failed them. All of them." Blitz lay down, eyes still watching the forest, like he knew this wasn't the end. Marla whispered, "He's not done. He knows there's more." And just like that, Blitz stood up, sniffed the air, and started walking again. Someone said, Where's he going now? Marla answered softly. To finish what everyone else ran from. No one stopped him this time. Not even the sheriff. Blitz didn't hesitate. He stopped in his tracks, barking sharp and fast, digging like something was buried beneath the tangled brush. Marla rushed over, heart racing. What is it, boy? She asked, kneeling beside him. His paws hit something hard. Not earth. Metal. A rusted handle, hidden deep under vines and dirt. Marla brushed the brush aside. Her fingers wrapped around the cold, corroded iron. "Help me clear this!" she shouted to the nearby volunteers. 3 men hurried over. Together they pulled at the heavy door. It groaned, resisted, then creaked, open with a sound that sent chills through everyone. A cold draft rose from the hole. It smelled like earth, dust, and something else, something stale. Marla grabbed a flashlight. "Stay behind me," she warned. Blitz didn't wait. He darted down the steps, barking once, then went silent. The tunnel opened into a small underground room. The walls were stone, the ceiling low. Marla's light caught torn blankets in the corner, piles of old snack wrappers, and a cracked mirror. Leaning against the dirt wall, one of the volunteers whispered, "This place looks like it hasn't been touched in years." Blitz whined. He pawed at the far wall, where childlike drawings were scratched into the stone. Stick figures, suns, flowers, and one name carved freshly. Lily. Marla's hand flew to her mouth. "She was here," she whispered. "She was just here." Everyone went quiet. A younger deputy stepped forward. "Then where is she now?" Blitz turned slowly, ears pricked. He sniffed the air, then stared toward a narrow tunnel branching deeper into the dark. Suddenly, he growled. Deep, low. "Every hair on his body stiff? What's he sensing?" one man asked nervously. Marla's voice was tight. "Something's still down there." One of the volunteers stepped back. "Wait, you think someone else is here? Like, now?" Blitz barked again, louder this time. He took 2 steps forward, then stopped, growling toward the dark like he was warning whatever, or whoever, was in there. Marla moved closer, flashlight shaking. "Who's down there? This is the police. Show yourself." Silence. Blitz's eyes didn't move. He was locked in, watching something no one else could see. "Blitz," Marla said gently. "What do you smell?" The growl faded, replaced by a sharp whine. He didn't want to go forward, but he didn't want to leave either. A volunteer whispered, "If Lily carved her name, it means someone let her stay here." Marla's heart pounded. Or someone kept her here. She looked around. Torn clothes. Food just barely expired. Plastic cups still damp. It wasn't just an old bunker. It had been used. Recently. Blitz stepped forward again, head low. Then suddenly, he stopped. His nose pressed against the floor. He barked once, urgently. "What is it?" the deputy asked Marla. Crouched. A small pink ribbon lay half buried under dirt. She picked it up slowly. "I saw Lily wearing this the day she vanished," she said, her voice cracking. Another bark from Blitz. He circled back to the entrance, then paused, looking at Marla like he was waiting. He wants to go deeper, she realized. He thinks she's still here. A volunteer shook his head. Or someone who took her is still inside. Marla stared into the darkness of the tunnel. Her breath caught. Either way, we follow him. And Blitz stepped into the tunnel, leading the way, his growl echoing off the stone. Blitz didn't slow down. He moved deeper into the tunnel, nose low, body tense. Marla followed closely, flashlight cutting through the heavy dark. Her boots crunched against loose gravel. The air was damp, cold, and still. "Stay close, boy," she whispered. They turned. A corner. That's when they heard it. A soft sound, like movement. A rustle behind the broken frame of an old mattress. Blitz froze, then slowly crept forward, his tail low, ears alert. Marla's voice was steady. "Is someone there? You're safe. I'm a police officer," a tiny voice answered. "Blitz?" Marla gasped. She dropped to her knees and aimed the flashlight toward the sound. A small figure emerged, her face pale, her hair tangled, but her eyes wide open. "Lily?" The girl nodded, tears filling her eyes. "I knew he'd find me," she whispered. She wrapped her arms around Blitz. burying her face into his fur. He didn't move, didn't bark. He just stood still, letting her. "Hold him," Marla's throat tightened. "You're safe now. We're getting you out." But Lily clutched Blitz tighter. "He's still here. He said he'd come back." Marla's eyes darted around. "Who? Who's still here?" Lily trembled. "The man. The one who locked me in. He brought food. He never talked much, but he said I'd stay forever." Marla didn't wait. She radioed outside. "Found Lily, alive. Send medical. We're coming out." She lifted the girl gently, and Blitz led the way back through the tunnel. At the surface, the search team rushed forward. People cried. Lily's parents were there, hugging her like they'd never let go. Marla stood back, watching. But something inside her didn't settle. She turned to a deputy. "Where are the old land records for this hill?" "Sheriff Darren pulled them months ago," he replied. "Said it was part of a zoning check." Her eyes narrowed. He never mentioned that. That night, she stayed at the station, digging through old files. Property ownership, permits, old arrest logs. One detail stood out. 20 years ago, the land had belonged to the Darren family. The same Darren who was now sheriff. She drove straight to his home. Blitz sat beside her in the car, head tilted, like he sensed what was coming. When the sheriff opened the door, he looked tired, older than usual. "I need answers," Marla said, stepping inside without waiting. "That bunker, the land, your name is on the deed." He didn't speak. "You knew," she said quietly. "You knew someone was down there." Darren's shoulders slumped. "I thought he was dead." "Who?" "My brother," he said, voice barely a whisper. "He was sick, not just in the head, angry, violent. We locked him up once. I thought he'd left town years ago." Marla's voice cracked. "You let him go? And he came back?" "I didn't know he was using the land. I swear," Darren said. "But I didn't want anyone digging too deep. I was trying to protect the town." Blitz growled softly. Marla placed a hand on his back. "You protected no one," she said. "Lily could have died. How many others did he hurt?" Darren's eyes welled. "I should have said something. I just didn't want the truth to ruin everything." Marla's voice was cold. "It already has." She turned to leave. Blitz followed. Outside, the wind was sharp, but it didn't matter. They had Lily. She was alive. And now, the real darkness was out in the open, but this wasn't over. Not yet. Lily didn't speak much those first few days, but she never let go of Blitz. Wherever he went, she followed, hand resting gently on his back, eyes scanning every shadow. Blitz didn't bark or run. He just stayed beside her, like he knew she needed more than words. Doctors said she was healing well, but the real wounds weren't on her body. They were buried deep. One afternoon, Marla sat beside Lily at the hospital garden. Blitz lay between them. "Do you remember what he looked like?" Marla asked gently. Lily nodded but said nothing. Blitz let out a low breath, as if trying to calm them both. "I feel safe with him," Lily finally whispered. "He's like a light when it's dark." News spread fast across Ashridge. The sheriff's brother had been arrested 2 counties over, trying to flee. His hideout had led to more discoveries. Hidden paths, children's belongings, things no one wanted to believe were real. When the truth came out, the town was shocked. Families cried. Old wounds reopened. At a town hall meeting, Sheriff Darren stepped forward. Cameras rolled, the crowd silent. "I failed you," he said. "I should have spoken up years ago. I thought silence would protect us. But silence let evil grow." He resigned on the spot. No applause, just heavy hearts. Blitz was honored in the town square the next morning. Kids brought flowers. Some drew little medals on paper. "He's not just a dog," one boy said. "He's a hero." Marla watched all of it with a quiet pride. But what moved her most was Lily. She stood beside Blitz, holding his leash, smiling for the first time since they found her. Later, at the same cliff where it all began, Lily returned. She stood at the edge with Blitz and Marla, the wind brushing through her hair. "I thought I'd never leave that place," Lily said softly. Marla knelt down. "But you did, and you're braver than most adults I know." Blitz sniffed the air, then sat beside Lily, tail thumping gently. "He kept me alive," she whispered. "When it was dark, I thought of him coming. I dreamed he'd find me, and he did." Marla felt her eyes sting. "He didn't just find you, Lily. He showed us the truth. We tried to bury it, forget it, but he uncovered what we wouldn't. Pause. Then she added, sometimes it takes a dog to reveal a town's soul. Every evening after that, Lily and Blitz walked that same path near the cliff. Some days quiet, some days filled with laughter, but always together. The people of Ashridge began to change. The trails were cleared. Missing children were honored. The silence broke, and with it, healing began. As for Blitz, he retired officially, this time for good. But he didn't go back to a kennel. He stayed with Lily, sleeping at the foot of her bed, watching every shadow. Marla visited often. She'd sit on the porch, coffee in hand, watching them play in the yard. Never seen him smile like that, she once said. Lily grinned. He knows he's home. The town tried to thank Marla, to thank Blitz. But they knew, no statue, no speech, no plaque could capture what really happened. Because this wasn't just a rescue story. It was a story of truth, pain, courage, and love. And at the center of it all stood a dog, a wounded, loyal soul, who didn't just track a missing girl. He brought light to everything the town tried to keep in the dark. If this story moved you, even half as much as it moved us, don't let it end here. Hit that like button to honor brave souls like Blitz. Drop a comment below. What part touched your heart the most? Subscribe for more emotional, powerful animal stories that show the world just how deep their love runs. Because sometimes, it's the animals who remind us what it means to be human.